In related news, for the first time in 8 years since 2013, Israeli ultra-orthodox parties are in the opposition. Though they're not there quietly, with many laws important to them expected to change under the new Bennett-Lapid coalition. In any case, here to discuss is Rabbi Dov Halbertal, former head of the Office of Israel's Chief Rabbi, and Jeremy Saltan, political strategist and director of English operations for the Yamina Party under Prime Minister Naftali Bennett. Now, both of you, thank you so much for being with us. Among the Haredi Party's fears are changes to requirements for army service, cuts in subsidies to religious seminaries or yeshivas, and shifts to the balance of authority between religion and state, particularly in matters such as marriage, divorce, and even death. Rabbi Halbertal, what do you think the ultra-Orthodox are most worried about?
They are worried about everything altogether. I mean, the changing of the atmosphere, the changing of the Jewishness of the state of Israel. I mean, the new coalition is reducing, minimizing the Jewishness of the Jewish state by wanting to enact new laws and by renewing secular values and Western values instead of Jewish values. So it comes that it's a problem of an atmosphere altogether. It's a problem of changing, I would have said even revolution in the status quo of Israel since Ben Gurion. And we will come, I mean the state of Israel will become much less Jewish and much less democratic.
So back in 2013, when the Haredi parties were in the opposition last, did similar fears come true, or was there perhaps a lot of fear over what might happen that was found to be unfounded? Rabbi Halbertal.
It's very difficult to answer to this question. It's an unprecedented situation that never occurred here in Israel. I mean, in so many fields, the agreements of the coalition are against the status quo, as you mentioned before. And I think that they will do it. They will do it. In two things, they will not succeed. In taking first to the army, the Haredi students, they will not succeed. They will not succeed to bring in core studies to the Haredi education, but they will succeed in other fields, in conversion, probably in changing the Shabbat publicly in Israel, and changing the law of marriage. And I think they can succeed. They will succeed even in changing the sort of rabbis, more liberal, more reforms,
So, Rabbi, pardon me for interrupting. Jeremy, I want to turn to you. How do you respond to some of the rabbis' allegations, including the new government attacking the Jewishness of the state or reducing Israel's Jewish values? Does the new coalition have any plans or coalition agreements that are unfavorable to the Haredi sector in your eye?
You know, I just find it to be very disappointing. This is actually a time for celebration. For the first time in Israel's history, the prime minister of the state is a person who is wearing a kippah. He is a religious man. For the first time since the Second Temple period, the leader of the Jewish people is a religious figure. You know, these are reasons to have celebration. Yes, that's true. The ultra-Orthodox parties are currently in the opposition. We maintain contacts with them. I wouldn't be surprised if within the current, coming months, perhaps after we pass the state budget, that at least the UTJ party does end up joining the future coalition. Let's put things in context here. During that 2013-2015 time where the Haredi parties were in opposition, they did not see any of the things that they cried out actually happen. And of course, if we look at the time in which Tomi Lapid, who his decrees, if you will, and his threats against the Jewish character of the state far surpass anything that was written in any one of these coalition agreements, when he was in the government under Sharon, so of course Gafni of the UTJ party had no problem making sure that the budget would go through and propping up that government, even with the price of the disengagement from Gaza. So I think, historical context is important when it comes to issues. As for the actual things that we're dealing with at this time, the three areas in which we are going to see reforms is one within the area of conversion, second within the area of kashrut, and third within the area of changing the way that the chief rabbi is chosen. Now, in both conversion and kashrut, we're talking about within the spectrum of orthodoxy having changes here. We're not talking about bringing in conservative or reform into the conversion or the kashrut process. There is a spectrum within orthodoxy, and I understand that the ultra-orthodox prefer that everything be on their side, but that's just not a reflection of what a majority of the Israeli people would like to see. And as long as it's in orthodoxy and it's within halacha, it's going to be very hard for them to find support for their positions on these issues. And when it comes to changing the chief rabbi selection committee so that it's easier for a Zionist rabbi to be the one who's representing the state of Israel, I think, again, it'll be very difficult for them in the Zionist state to try to find people, even within the Likud, who they're currently aligned with, that will support that position, that the chief rabbis should not be people who are Zionists and view the current state as part of the redemption of the Jewish people.
All right, so Rabbi, I want to turn back to you. Jeremy just mentioned the close contacts that the coalition is maintaining with the Haredi parties. Do you think that there is a chance, that there is a topic where the Haredi parties actually can support or can get behind some of these changes with respect to maybe being more inclusive to other Jews and to Zionist Israelis?
They cannot support any of those changes. It's not so innocent. He told Jeremy like it's in the frame of the orthodoxy. Not at all. The changes of the kashrut, the changes of conversion. It will be much liberal. It will be towards the reforms. It will be a disaster. By the way, he's saying about the benefit.
Well, may I ask where you're getting these concerns from, though? Have you seen in agreement, or do you have any sort of evidence to suggest that what you're saying is true? That reform influences are going to come in as opposed to Orthodox?
I know the agreement. I know. They want to take the kashrut out of the Rabbanut Rashit and give it to everybody that has some criterions in it. It's unbelievable. The people here in Israel will not eat kosher outside. It's a disaster, And they want to give the way of or the process of converting to every chief rabbi in a city that can be a reformer, liberal, even non-religious. So, but I want to say another thing. He told Jeremy that we have to celebrate about the new prime minister. I want to say one word about it. He has a kippah, but he cheated. He was stealing the votes, of its supporters, and he has to be in jail. Not prime minister. It's unprecedented in the history of the politics of Israel. He was cheating. He was like taking all the right to the left, to those who support terror.
Well, Jeremy, I'm just going to give you the last 30 or so seconds. If you could just respond to Rabbi Halbertal.
Yeah, the stuff directed at Prime Minister Bennett is ridiculous. It's disappointing to see people lower themselves to that level to spread such, fake news. Look, in terms of the kashrut, what we're talking about is lower it from the state level of the rabbinate to the city level of the rabbinate. All of the city rabbis, all of the city rabbinates, they're all Orthodox people. I don't know what stuff he's reading, what stuff he's making up. I suggest people actually look at what stuff is actually written in terms of the agreements between Yamina and Yesh Atid, and not listen to this fake news that's being spread specifically throughout the Haredi community, which is unfortunate. And to say such things as going to jail and so on and so forth. Guys, we all know that Naftali Bennett was running to be the prime minister of Israel. We never committed to sit with Benjamin Netanyahu under any circumstances. This revisionist history lesson that we're trying to get from these people is very unfortunate. But again, I'll take it all within stride because I know there's a very good chance within a few months they're going to be knocking on our door, wanting to enter the coalition. So I'll leave it at that.
All right. Jeremy Saltan and Rabbi Dov Halbertal, thank you both so much for joining us.